Hello friends, welcome to my channel and explore the world of Microsoft Azure. My name is Rajneesh Kaushik and I'm a Microsoft certified trainer, consultant and an enterprise architect. For more latest videos and blogs, you can always log into my website rajneeshkaushik.com and subscribe to my blog. Please do not forget to subscribe my channel and click the bell icon so you don't miss the latest videos. Do like, share and comment.
Hello and welcome. Today we are diving into a brand new topic, which is not just timely but a transformational topic in the world of data and analytics space. I'm thrilled to introduce our discussion on unlocking potential, the compelling reasons to migrate to Databricks Unity Catalog. So, why are we talking about this topic today? Well, in the era of digital transformation, data is the king, right? And it is not just a king but a currency of digital transformation. Now, how we access, manage, or utilize this data is paramount. So Databricks Unity Catalog is not just another tool in your toolbox, but it is a game changer and revolution how we approach the data. Imagine a world where data silos are of thing of the past, right? Where security and governance is not just an add-on but an integral part of your data journey, where scalability meets the flexibility. So that is what actually Databricks Unity Catalog promises, and this is why we have to implement Databricks Unity Catalog. Now, if you are someone who are very passionate about harnessing the full potential of data, right, you might have definitely witnessed the challenges and limitations of traditional data management approaches and systems. And that is why exploring this Unity catalog is very, very important. And it is not just another technical exercise, but it is very critical for your data journey. So, if you are a data scientist, you are a business leader, or someone who is very curious to know about the future of the data, then join me in this journey where we are going to embark on the journey to unlock the full potential of Unity Catalog and data driven world. Okay, unlocking potential, the compelling reason to migrate to Databricks Unity Catalog. Here is the agenda. First, we are going to learn governance for data and AI and why it is so complex. Then we will learn about Databricks Unity Catalog, Unity Catalog key capabilities, and then its architecture. Then we will learn about workspace-centric deployment, how this workspace-centric deployment works in the current situation before Unity Catalog, centralized metadata and user management, and centralized access controls. And then we will wrap it up. Now, this is part one of the sessions, and then part two of the session will come in upcoming weeks where I'm going to dwell deeper into other aspect of Unity Catalog. So let's get started. So let's understand why governance for data and AI is so complex, right? So if you see in the left side, there are data analyst, data engineer, and data scientist, right? These are the users who are working on the data at certain point of time, and every user persona has certain set of areas where they work. Like for data analysts, they might be working on data lake and data warehouses, right, and metadata on the hive. And then data scientists might be working on ML models or dashboards, and sometimes they connect with the data warehouses and data lake as well, right? And data engineer work on the data aspect in terms of data lake and data warehouse, right? So these are the personas. Now, if you think about why this data governance for data and AI assets is complex, because first and foremost, if you see permissions on the files, right? You have data lake where all your files are stored, and in those files you have specific set of permissions which you have kept on those files, right? And these permissions are very difficult because there is no row and column level permissions, because you are putting the permission on the file level on the data lake, right? And if suppose take an example, if you have a file which is the partitioning is done on the file on the basis of the year and on the basis of the region. Like there are files which is for a certain, like there are 8 states in the US, take an example, and the Kaiser Permanente is processing the file, which is an insurance agency which is operating in 8 different states. And you have partitioned the data onto the 8 different states, and these files are stored on the same data lake. And when you grant the permission for a particular set of users on a certain states level, right, so the whenever a partitioning happens, that set of people who are supposed to access the data for a particular state will only have access to that particular data. Now in that situation, if you have a very granular permission put on that particular state, now if suppose there is a policy change happened, right, and in that policy change, because of the some regulation comes in the particular state, in the California state, suppose there is a regulation which is coming, and then because of that regulation you may have to change the structure, or you may have to change the permissions on that particular partition, right? Then you may, how will you change it? Because your partitions are already done, your data is already stored in that layout, right? And if you make changes in that, you cannot rewrite the whole partition again. So if the governance rule changes, okay, because of which the permission changes, right, then there is a problem. You cannot restructure the data, and it is becoming very, very complex to rewrite all the data when the policy change happens. So this is why the permission on files, which is on the data lake, is very, very difficult to manage. Then the second aspect of it is permissions on table and views. So what is a permission on table and views? Suppose in the Hive Metastore you have a table, right? And that table, most of the time in the Hive Metastore you have the tables and different views. So whenever you grant a permission on table and views, right, this table and view permission can go out of the sync, right? Because if user have access permission on the files, right, and how will you make sure that the file level permission, which is the file data which is coming on the file and then putting in the Hive Metastore, then the permission you have put on the Hive Metastore, they are on sync, right? So there may be cases where you may have restricted the data on the Hive Metastore, but that the file level permissions are not in sync. So file level permission and Hive Metastore permissions are not in sync, right? So this is why access on file level permission and access on the metadata level permissions should be in sync, but actually in a real scenario it's not the case, right? So this is another problem. Permissions on table, columns and rows, that is another one, because if you see your now in case of data warehouse, your permissions and models are different. They, in the data warehouses you can grant the column level, row level access, right? And when the data is coming on the data lake perspective, that from data lake it actually getting ingested into the data warehouse, at that time the permissions are completely different, right? Because data lake level permissions are on the file level permissions, data warehouse level permissions are on the column level and table level and row level permissions, right? So then these, both the data warehouse and file level permission, they are in different governance model, right? How do you make sure that your governance is consistent on both the level, data warehouse level as well as the file level, right? So this is another challenge. Then the third challenge is permissions on ML models, dashboards and features, right? Because it is not just a permission or governance on the data warehouse or file level, but also your AI assets, because AI asset is also very, very critical and important part of your data estate, right? So you need to make sure that your permissions on the AI model is consistently followed, right? So like one example is your machine learning model or your dashboards which you have created or notebooks which is using to create a model, right? Each has its own set of permissions or governance level, and it is very difficult to manage all of these assets consistently. So problem get bigger and bigger when your data assets exist and they are across the different clouds. So one of the cloud, AWS, Azure and GCP, your data might be existing into multiple clouds because companies are now purchasing different companies, right? So their data sets are in different clouds, and then when you merge the data sets in your company, it you need to not just merge it but also put a governance in place for all the data which is across the different clouds, right? So this is where you need a unified governance model for your data and AI assets. So Databricks Unity Catalog comes for the rescue of these all problems, right? Because it is a unified governance model which bridges the gap between the two different set of disparate systems, right? It not just help you to govern your data kept in your data lake, but also to your data warehouse, and also bridges the gap in to consistently govern the data kept in the meta store, and it is consistently work for all your AI assets, right? So that is why it is a game changer. So Databricks Unity Catalog is actually, why it is very important and why it's a unified governance model, right? Because first and foremost, it maps, secure, and audit all the data across all the different clouds, right? Whether it is GCP or Azure or AWS, it helps you to achieve the open data sharing and collaboration with the open standards. So you don't have to do vendor lock-in, right? It provides you options for seamless data observability and quality across the different scenarios. It helps you to improve the productivity and discoverability of the data as any other governance tool does, right? It also provides you optimized performance and reduce cost. So that is why Unity Catalog is must have tool for your data state. So now let's understand what are the Unity Catalog capabilities and key capabilities. So Unity Catalog key capabilities. Unity Catalog key capabilities. Unity Catalog provides a centralized metadata and user level management, right? What does this mean? It means that um, instead of using workspace level user management, which was a thing of the past, right? You can create a Unity catalog, and from the Unity catalog is a central console for not just managing all the users but also managing all the metadata. It is also provides centralized data access and control. With the help of Unity Catalog, you can switch on or switch off the access to any users. It helps you to provide the data lineage. And what does it mean? That data lineage means data is coming from downstream systems, consumed by the downstream systems, from where it is coming, where it is going. So that lineage it creates, so that user is aware about from where the data is coming from, where it is flowing into. And it also provides you data access and auditing. Data access auditing is very important tool for the purpose of reporting, so that you know who is accessing what and when, and what kind of access is granted to which person in your organization. It also provides you data search and discovery, because unless you can search your data, or you have a inbuilt discoverability of the data, data is of no use, right? Because you may be having humongous data across the different cloud in different personas, different spaces, but if you cannot discover it, right, it's of no use. So data discoverability is a very important feature of any governance tool. It also provides you secure data sharing, and data sharing is done with the help of the delta sharing. Delta sharing is a open standard where you share the data to a different in across that different cloud providers, right, in seamless way. So it provides you these central capabilities, which makes it a game changing tool in the data landscape. Let's understand what is workspace centric deployment. So in today's world, before the Unity catalog came into the picture, what we used to create different workspaces, right? And these workspaces are created, and in that workspace you are going to create clusters, and in every workspace you will have a Hive metastore, and in that workspace you grant the access to the users or groups, and those user or group is synced with the identity provider of the cloud. Like in the Azure, it is synced with the Azure AD, and all your clusters and SQL warehouses, which is done in the under the data warehouse, they are actually able to read or write the cloud storage. In case of Azure, it is a Azure ADLS Gen 2, right? And Hive Metastore is actually again using the cloud storage, the same cloud storage provided by the Azure or AWS. In AWS, it is S3. So Hive Metastore is storing this data in the cloud storage, and SQL cluster or SQL warehouse or cluster, where Databricks cluster is accessing this with the read and write, right? And the users and groups are getting a permission with the identity provider of the cloud. Now, what is the problem in this approach, right? The problem in this approach is this. So let's understand. Without Unity catalog, what happens? Suppose you created one fictitious example we can take. In the example, suppose you have data mesh implementation. In data mesh implementation, you created data as a product. So you created a one product one. In the product one, you have users, metastore, access control, and clusters. You have another Databricks workspace for another product, and in that product you have again the same set of users. Maybe some users might be managed here, some users might be common in these both workspaces, right? So then it is again capturing the same information here. So why? Because the metastore which you are captured here, it might be here as well, right? So every time you are going to mimic the metastore, you are going to mimic the access control. Access control will be different for this workspace versus the access control of this workspace. So if you have 50 workspaces, you have 50 set of user management policies for each workspace, 50 metastores, 50 different access control, one for each workspace. It becomes very difficult to manage all this, and your problem is manifold by the number of workspace you are capturing. In a large environment, large corporate environment, you may have different maybe 100 workspaces, and for each workspace, managing this manage user management, metastore, and access control can be very difficult. So how do we manage this? So the easiest way to manage is to segregate the complexity with the help of Unity catalog. With the Unity catalog, you have user management, metastore, and access control in the Unity catalog in a central location, and you have a Databricks workspaces where your SQL clusters or SQL warehouse and clusters are created and attached to the workspaces. And remaining things like user management, metastore, or access control, they are captured in the Unity catalog. They are kept in the Unity catalog. The three-level namespaces of Unity catalog. So let's understand what is three-level namespaces of Unity catalog. So Unity catalog, first we have a Databricks account. In Databricks account, we have different metastores, and in these metastores and workspaces, and these metastores are assigned to a particular workspace, right? And so it is a three-level namespaces. First is catalog. Every metastore has a catalog. In that catalog, we have different databases. Like in this example, you have a database 1, database 2, and then each database may have different set of tables. There are two set of tables, managed table and external table, and then database could also have volumes, right? Or it could have a view. So it's a traditional RDBMS where you have a table, views, right? or you can also have a volume. So this is how the three level namespaces is captured in the Unity catalog. This simplifies the overall design because you have a hierarchy, right? You have a data first at the top level, you have a Databricks account in which you have a meta stores, and in each meta store you have a catalog. So this is how it is structured. Now let's see how this three level namespaces work. Like in this example, you have a catalog, database and views, right? And this is how it is displayed in the data explorer of Databricks. Apart from that, there is a Hive metastore, which is a legacy workspace level metastore, which is created when you create a workspace. So that is also kept. Still it is kept there in the new design. Why it is kept in the new design is just for the backward compatibility, so that you can use the your scripts or all your logic works exactly the same with the existing logic, right? But I would recommend you to migrate to the new design of catalog, database and views, right? Three level design, right? So this is very, very important. Centralized access control. So Databricks provides you ANSI compatible data control statements, right? Like grant privileges on securable types, right? So it is something which is very much everybody is familiar with this SQL syntax, right? So Databricks provides you those kind of syntax to centrally manage the access control or permissions on a different workloads. Like this example, grant select on IoT events, which is your events means is a collection of files in the S3 or ADLS to the engineers. Engineers is your groups from the ADL from your Azure AD, right? Or your any identity provider. So this is a centralized way, and the same thing you can do. You can go into the UI and put a grant select modify your privileges and then grant. So this way you can manage the access control in a centralized way. So this is the end of the first session on the Unity catalog. I will publish another session on the Unity catalog, which is going to be a deep dive session. Thanks for watching.
Thanks for watching, and do not forget to subscribe and hit the bell icon so you don't